Hello and welcome to Sounding Board, a community access television production of Seroptimus International of Novato. My name is Madeline Peters, and I have a very special guest here today, Bruce Frankel, and I'll introduce him in a moment. But just a little bit of background on Seroptimus. Seroptimus International is a global organization, and its mission is to advance the status of women and girls, both locally and globally. My guest today, Bruce Frankel, is the author of this book, The 7 Biggest Financial Mistakes Made by Successful Entrepreneurs. And I've read this book actually several times, and we'll give you some information so you get the short version. But Bruce, thank you very much. Thank you, first of all, for all the time that you spent kind of meeting with me to prepare for this show, and for the education you've given me over the last several months. So the show is yours. So how about providing people with a little bit of background about yourself?
Okay, well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here, and thank you for inviting me. My background was originally in business management and consulting work, going back several years now. And in the process of doing that and working with people, I realized that we assume that successful people understand finance and have their affairs in order, but that's an assumption. And once you get in and dig behind it, you realize that finance takes a lot of people, even successful business owners and entrepreneurs and corporate executives, it takes these people out of their comfort zone. So I started to become a certified financial planner, and one of my missions is to help people understand more about finance, demystify personal finance. So that's what I hope that we're starting to do here today.
Well, I think that's really important. I certainly know in our conversations I became very intrigued by not only what you said, but the information I gathered, and with my own experiences too, especially attending the Commission on the Status of Women at the United Nations, and realizing that so many decisions really come down to it is all about the economics. It's all about finance. So why don't I have you launch it? You've very carefully divided this into segments. The first segment is understanding your current financial picture. So why don't I have you start with that?
Great. So it is important that the first thing that people do, right, is to, as you said, understand what is their current situation, right? So by that I mean, what is your current, your personal balance sheet, right? So in business, we talk a lot about a balance sheet of a company. Well, we as individuals have our own balance sheet, right? So step one is I'd like to see people to write down what they have. So what do we have? They're called assets. The things we own are called assets. So whether we own anything from a bicycle to a stamp collection to a car to a house to a business, all of these things are considered our assets. So writing down a list of what those assets are and what we think they're worth is step one of the balance sheet.
So their value, their dollar value, okay.
Yes. The other part of the balance sheet is our liabilities. What do we owe people? What do we owe other companies? What do we owe the bank? What do we owe the credit card companies? What do we owe? Our liabilities. When we take the assets and we subtract the liabilities, that comes to our net worth. Assets minus liabilities equals net worth. So if our assets are $100,000 and our liabilities are $10,000, our net worth is $90,000. Pretty straightforward, right? So that's step one. Let's first understand what our personal balance sheet or our net worth is. Next, I'd like to see people to sit down and understand, where are we spending money? So we go out and about in our day and what have you, and we're spending money, and we may use cash out of our pocket, or we may use a credit card or a debit card. And what ends up happening is we go through our day and our month and our year, and we really don't know how much we're spending. Sure, we get a monthly statement from the bank about our checkbook. We get monthly statements about our credit cards, but how many people really sit down and reconcile those things and stop and look at them?
Mm-hmm. So get a picture of their spending patterns.
Get a picture of your spending patterns. Mm-hmm. By developing a budget like that, now we're able to step back and you can take a look at it and see, is this what I really want to be spending money on every month, right? And then multiply that out and see how much you're spending on a year. The example I love to give is coffee, right? There's a lot of wonderful coffee places out there now for us to go to and get incredible coffee. We can spend $4 on a cup of coffee, maybe even more, and do that several times a week. Multiply that out into what it's costing a month, and then in a year, and then it's up to each person, right? Because we each have our own value system. So for someone, it might not be important to be spending that amount of money on coffee every month, right? Someone might say, I would never do that. But another person may get a ton of value out of doing that and feel really good about doing it, and that's an important part of their life, right? So it's not up to us to judge folks and how they're spending money and what they're doing. I just want to make sure people are aware of how they're spending money, and so they can make decisions at that point about it. So, understanding the current situation, right? Now, this is going to be different for everybody. Someone just starting out may have a very small budget, and that's fine. But people who are older, and as we start to get involved in more and more things, or have children and homes and all, right?
Yes.
That's going to be a lot more complicated. So try to just start with the basics and get that down to see what your personal situation is. You can understand your situation at that point, and then you can make some decisions.
So that's the important thing, is just no matter where you are in your life cycle, it's important to get a clear picture of what your spending habits are, and then be able to sit down and reflect on where your money is going. And I know that's a difficult thing for many people to do.
Is.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, I think that part is so important. I remember just sitting down and crafting a budget myself. It was like, oh, I really am spending money here.
Yeah.
And then making some thoughtful decisions about, well, do I want to spend money there, or is it better, am I better served by using it someplace else?
There's a lot of little things that people don't think about when they're, doing their budget. And so online people can find all kinds of budget worksheets and whatnot, because it will help remind, and we give clients that, right? We send them a budget worksheet because it reminds them of some things they might not be thinking about that they spend money on a regular basis. So there are tools out there to help people to do that. And a lot of people, right, we're going to talk a little later about some other issues that keep people from moving forward, but this is step one.
Step one. Well, thank you very much for laying the groundwork for understanding your current financial picture.